What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today, we're going to be taking a look at tomorrow's matchup between the New York Giants and the Kansas City Chiefs. We have some injury updates, some really crucial injury updates, in fact, and we're going to go ahead and discuss them as we do preview tomorrow's do-or-die matchup for the New York Giants. The Giants are 0-2, shocker, once again. But you know what's actually shocking? The Chiefs are 0-2. That's pretty surprising. I don't know how many people had them starting the season out 0-2, and I don't think many have them starting out 0-3. The New York Giants are the underdogs. The Chiefs are the heavy favorites going into this Sunday night matchup, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think the Giants have a really good chance of upsetting the Chiefs at home in their home opener tomorrow on primetime football. And one of the reasons why, the injury report. The Giants have some very positive developments on the injury report. The Chiefs, quite the opposite. The Chiefs have some players, crucial players, who will be missing from the lineup during tomorrow's game, giving the New York Giants an opportunity. Now, will they rise to the opportunity, rise to the occasion? Will the offense continue to find success as it did last week versus the Cowboys? And will the defense be able to bounce back after a woeful performance against the Cowboys? Of course, those are big questions. I don't necessarily have the answers for those, but hopefully the Giants answer with the positive answers that we're hoping for tomorrow against these Chiefs. And what I'll say before we dive into this injury report, when I'm looking at this game between the Giants and the Chiefs, what it really comes down to me, is coaching. The Chiefs have one of the best coaching staffs, if not the best in the NFL. Andy Reid is going to be a future Hall of Famer, and while it's very rare for coordinators to make it to the Hall of Fame, Steve Spagnuolo has a pretty strong case to be one who makes it. He won Super Bowls with the New York Giants. He's now won Super Bowls with the Kansas City Chiefs, and his defense year in and year out is elite, no matter what team he's coaching, but especially in recent years with these Kansas City Chiefs. And the New York Giants offense needs to be prepared to go up against that elite defense, and it's not going to be easy. And my point being here is Andy Reid, future Hall of Famer, Steve Spagnuolo, one of the best coordinators maybe ever in NFL history. And then you have Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, and Shane Bowen. The Giants, talent-wise on the sidelines, are not matching up. They are going to be outcoached, and it's really going to come down to the coaching staff finally having some cohesion, turning in a complete performance from the sidelines, and it's going to come down to the New York Giants players rising through the adversity and taking advantage of some of the mess-ups that the Kansas City Chiefs might have as a result of some crucial players not being in that lineup. So it's not going to be an easy game for the Giants, but again, I do like our chances. There is, of course, like I said, the risk of being severely outcoached. However, there is also a possible avenue here for the New York Giants offense to take advantage and for the New York Giants defense to bounce back. And that's going to come from the injury report. So let's go ahead and waste no more time and dive into it. Let's start on the New York Giants side of things. So they do have some game status designations. Number one, linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, doubtful for tomorrow's game as he's dealing with a calf injury. There is a severe lack of depth for the New York Giants in the linebacker core. Bobby Okereke, of course, is their starting linebacker. Next to him should have been Micah McFadden, but he went down early in week one, and he is on injured reserve. Who has been replacing McFadden? Well, that was linebacker Darius Muasau, but he is ruled out for tomorrow's game due to a concussion/eye injury. Definitely wishing Darius Muasau the best. Hopefully he's able to recover soon. But in the meantime, guys, you can expect the New York Giants to have some players that you've probably never heard of out there at linebacker in tomorrow's game. And those players are likely to be Swayze Bozeman. He got some playing time at the end of last week's game. He was on the field and in coverage for Dak Prescott's 18-yard completion to Jake Ferguson on the final drive of regulation, where, of course, the Cowboys hit that 64-yard field goal. Swayze Bozeman, unfortunately, probably the culprit on that play, if there is a player who was a culprit, but I think we all agree that Shane Bowen, the DC, is to blame. But yeah, Swayze Bozeman, unfortunately, was thrown into the fire there, has barely played in this defense. He's more of a special teams player, and he was out there in the dying embers of that game, and he could not do much. So you'll probably see more of him this week. And then you'll also likely see Neville Hewitt added this week to the New York Giants practice squad. He's a 10-year NFL veteran. He used to be a starting linebacker for the New York Jets back in, I believe, 2020. But he spent the last 4 years with the Houston Texans. He made several starts for the Texans. He had some pretty big highlight moments, but was more of a rotational backup player. He was signed to the New York Giants practice squad. I would expect them to elevate him for tomorrow's game. Again, a 10-year experienced 32-year-old veteran. They need some of that experience out there in their linebacker core, and they're probably going to get it through Neville Hewitt. So expect to see him on the field tomorrow making his New York Giants debut. On the defensive line, the Giants do have some injuries. Chauncey Golston is questionable with an ankle injury. I think he'll probably play, though. Raheem Nunez-Roche is doubtful with a foot injury. That could be a potentially big loss for this New York Giants defense. Not saying that Raheem Nunez-Roche is a very good or crucial player, but the Giants, again, that's a position that they don't have a ton of depth. They haven't seemed interested in getting third-round rookie Darius Alexander on the field very much. He got some playing time last week, but he hasn't played a lot through 2 weeks. But he probably will play more in tomorrow's game as a result of Raheem Nunez-Roche being injured. And you'll likely also see some more Elijah Garcia. Elijah Garcia had a big sack on Dak Prescott last week, had a great bull rush move, power move on the inside to get that sack. Definitely flashed something on that rep. If Raheem Nunez-Roche does, in fact, not play tomorrow, I think you can expect to see a little bit more Elijah Garcia. Now, the Giants also have an injury on special teams. Gunnar Olszewski is questionable with a back injury that's been bothering him for some time now. I'm curious to see if the New York Giants do elevate a kick returner for tomorrow's game. They have 2 of them existing on their practice squad, one of them being Amir Smith-Marset, who a lot of Giants fans feel like should be on the regular roster. The other one being Xavier Gipson, who they did claim off of the waiver wire after he was released by the New York Jets following their Week 1 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, in which he did fumble on a kickoff. But there have been some high moments for Xavier Gipson in the past. So we'll see if the Giants end up elevating a kick returner. They do plan on continuing to deploy starting level talent on kickoffs. Mike Gobriel, the special teams coordinator, indicated you probably will see Tyrone Tracy Jr. back deep to return kicks again tomorrow evening. Make of that what you will. I'm not crazy about it. I think Tracy is too valuable to this offense to risk with a special teams injury. Wan'Dale Robinson had a hell of a performance last week against the Cowboys, but he didn't practice the week going into that game because he was injured on a kick return in Week 1. He was still on the injury report this week, but he has no game designation. He will play tomorrow. John Runyon Jr. also was limited this week with a back injury. He will play tomorrow. John Michael Schmitz, limited with a toe injury. He will play tomorrow. Darius Slayton, limited with a groin injury. He will play tomorrow. Roy Robertson Harris, full participant this week with a knee injury. He's going to play. And Cam Scatterbo, full participant with an ankle injury. He will play as well. Now, we do have a major injury update here on New York Giants former All-Pro left tackle Andrew Thomas, and we're going to go ahead and dive into that and discuss whether or not he's going to play and what kind of an impact that will have on the offense. But first, before we do, I just want to give a very quick shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, which is Sleeper. Want to win up to 100 times your money on game days? Sleeper is the #1 sports app with real-time scores, lightning-fast news, and daily fantasy picks that take just seconds. Choose more or less on your favorite player's stats, cash in fast, and even chat with friends while you play. Download Sleeper today and use promo code FIRESIDE for a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's code FIRESIDE, guys. Go check out Sleeper. Really do love playing with that app on Sundays. It's a lot of fun. And I'm actually going to go ahead and show you guys something that I'm cooking up for tomorrow's game, as I need to fix the background here, get our FSG background. There we go. So let's take a look at Sleeper real quick here. Scroll over to Giants versus Chiefs and see if there's any lines and picks that we do like. Now, I think that Wan'Dale Robinson over 43.5 yards is very low considering what he's done the last 2 weeks. I'm going to take more yards on Wan'Dale Robinson. And because the New York Giants have really struggled to defend the run in this game, I'm actually going to go ahead and take Isaiah Pacheco over 39.5 rushing yards. Pacheco hasn't looked great, but this is a bad Giants run defense. I think that there is a really good chance he gets some yardage in this one. And I'm also going to go ahead and take a Malik Neighbors anytime touchdown, of course. I love Neighbors. He's been off to a very hot start so far this season, and I do think he's going to continue that hot start with his first primetime game of the year here against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm going to bet $5 here with 6.58 times on this entry. Hopefully, we're able to win that 32.90 prize. That would be fantastic. So, guys, once again, make sure to go check out Sleeper and use promo code Fireside for a 100% deposit match up to $100. Anytime you guys do use that promo code, it helps out this channel tremendously. So if you want to support us, that is one of the best ways to do so. But thank you to everybody who does support us, who does tune in, whether you comment, you like, maybe you don't say anything at all, but you just enjoy watching us. All of your support is appreciated nonetheless. So thank you guys. And back into the injury updates. Andrew Thomas is questionable for tomorrow's game, recovering from this foot injury. Now, we have been talking about Andrew Thomas a lot since the summer. Will he play in week 1? Will he play in week 2? Well, now it seems like he is set to make his season debut here in week 3, according to most sources. Most of the beat reporters seem to have an inclination here, and they do believe he will play. However, the New York Giants have seemed to indicate this will be a true game time decision. Sometimes in the NFL, we hear game time decision, and they make the decision the night before. No. With Andrew Thomas, he is going to warm up on the field on Sunday evening and then make his decision at game time. He will suit up. The Giants will likely suit up 9 total offensive linemen in this game. Marcus Bowe, of course, will be suited up just in case Andrew Thomas decides he can't play. And James Hudson is likely to suit up as well. However, the New York Giants do seem to be optimistic that Andrew Thomas will make his debut. This is massive for the Giants offense. This is what they've been dying to get. Obviously, Andrew Thomas, we all know how tremendous he is when he's on the field, but he hasn't been on the field enough. He's been out for 18 of the Giants' last 34 games. That's over 50% of those games. He's missed, of course, 17 if you do the quick math there. On those games, that would be 35 games. Apologies. I don't do quick math quite well, especially not when I'm talking as much as I am right now. So forgive me. But yes, Andrew Thomas has been injured more often than he's been on the field in the last 2 years, ever since he signed that contract extension. But when he's on the field, he's usually a top 3 player on this New York Giants roster. And that should continue to be the case. Now, as far as Lisfranc injuries go, he might have suffered the worst one possible last year. He had surgery on that. He also had surgery on his ankle this offseason. Not the one that he injured the foot, but the other ankle. This is the one that he suffered an injury to that cut short his rookie season back in 2021, if you all recall that. Andrew Thomas had an injury, I think that was 2020, actually. He had an injury on his ankle back then. He had a cleanup surgery this offseason on his ankle. So essentially, Thomas recovered fully from the ankle surgery, but it did cause him to have somewhat of a setback in his foot recovery. And now he is finally seemingly recovered enough to play. He's taken a lot more snaps in practice this week than he had the 2 weeks prior. And honestly, throughout the summer, he barely practiced. But he started to ramp up going into week 1. He did a little bit more in week 2. But from what I read and all of the reports that we've received, he practiced significantly more for this week's game going into week 3 here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So in all likelihood, you probably will see Andrew Thomas on the field versus the Chiefs, which is huge. The Chiefs have a great pass rush. They have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, and the New York Giants are going to need as much offensive line help as they can get. Now, the one caveat here, though, Andrew Thomas might not play the whole game. In my opinion, it would be a mistake if they do this strategy that I'm about to discuss, but it is something that they are considering. The Giants might have a rotation at left tackle. That's right. They might have Andrew Thomas play a handful of snaps on a pitch count and then rotate in other guys like Marcus Bowe or James Hudson potentially in order to give Andrew Thomas some rest. Since he hasn't played in a game setting in almost a year now, they might rotate him off the field at times to give him some rest. I don't like that. I think on the offensive line, you need continuity and you also need reps in order to gain a rhythm. When you're pulled out of the lineup as an offensive lineman and then thrown back in, I think that is when you make mistakes. And this New York Giants offensive line cannot afford to make mistakes against this Kansas City Chiefs defense. So for me personally, if Andrew Thomas is not 100% ready to play 100% of snaps, I personally don't think he should play. Now, a lot of you might agree with that or might disagree with that, and I understand why. 80% of Andrew Thomas is 100% better than 50% or than 100% of James Hudson. right? If you were comparing these two players, it's non-comparable. Andrew Thomas is a night and day upgrade over James Hudson. But the argument that I will make is the offensive line last week versus Dallas turned in a pretty solid and impressive performance, albeit against a weak defense. That is true, but it was a solid performance. And Marcus Bowe, the 5th-round rookie, he looked pretty good at left tackle. And honestly, if the New York Giants feel like Andrew Thomas isn't ready to play every snap, I would rather they keep the continuity and rhythm on the left tackle position of this offensive line, and they start Marcus Bowe for one more game and throw Andrew Thomas into the lineup for week 4. But I understand the Giants are 0-2. They need to win this game in order to save the season. So they're going to try and get their best players on the field for as much of the game as possible. And for that, I do understand the perspective. I just don't think I'm crazy about a potential rotation on the offensive line. Those never seem to work out well, and the Giants seem to do them far too often. But nevertheless, we likely will see Andrew Thomas out there tomorrow night. How many snaps will he play? That is the big question. Will he rotate? Most likely, although I just don't think that it's the smartest idea. But again, having him out there for half of the snaps even is an upgrade over having James Hudson out there at all. So I'll take it. And really excited to hear that Andrew Thomas is recovering and almost healthy and ready to play. Now, before we do wrap up this episode, there is a big injury update on the side of the Kansas City Chiefs. So they have a defensive end, Mike Dana, is out. Cornerback Christian Fulton is out. Wide receiver Jalen Royals is questionable. And today, this morning, wide receiver Xavier Worthy was ruled out. That is huge for the New York Giants defense because Xavier Worthy at this point is probably the Chiefs' best playmaker. He suffered a dislocated shoulder in week 1. He has not played since the 3rd snap of the season. He will not play in this game. Big break for the New York Giants defense. Now, of course, they still have to worry about Hollywood Brown and, of course, Travis Kelce, but this Chiefs offense lacks firepower. They do not have a lot of talent out there outside of Patrick Mahomes. And yes, Patrick Mahomes can elevate a core of crappy receivers for sure, but this is a particularly crappy core of receivers with Xavier Worthy still sidelined. This needs to be a bounce-back game for the New York Giants. They have a clear and obvious opportunity here to bounce back, but they got to put up or shut up. They need to actually demonstrate that they can be a legitimate defense against a legitimate offense in the Kansas City Chiefs. Even without their top playmakers, of course, Rashee Rice is still sidelined. He is suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season. Even without those players, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are a force that you need to look out for. The New York Giants defense does need to strap in for this game. Otherwise, if they are the reason we lose once again, things are going to get really ugly this season. But that is a big update there. Xavier Worthy out for this game. Huge break for the New York Giants defense. Now we need the cornerbacks, Cordell Flott, Deonte Banks, Drew Phillips, and of course, Paulson and Debo, our CB1, need to turn in a good performance because so far the secondary has had a lot of problems through 2 weeks. But that's a big injury update there. And of course, the big injury update on Andrew Thomas. That one rather positive for the New York Giants. But guys, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Drop your score predictions for tomorrow's game in the comment section. And make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go, New York Giants.
Perfect.